Ready? Are we on?
Yep.
All right. Everybody, I am Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and you are watching Shakat.
I really shouldn't do this, but let's see what happens anyway. This may not work. This is either going to be amazing or horrible. So let's see. A 1, 2, 3. Maybe I was down with man who's in the middle of something that you don't really understand. Maybe I'm a man, maybe I'm the only one that you could ever help me. Baby, won't you help me?
Alrighty, just gonna go right into it. First off, why did you choose to name yourself after a super scary bacterial infection?
Well, anthrax was taken. So as I was going through the dictionary, I went to A's, I went to the B's, and there was Bumblefoot, so I went with that. Actually, Bumblefoot is the name of, there's a bacterial infection, ulcerative pododermatitis, something that animals get, a lot of guinea pigs and chickens. And my wife is a veterinarian, and while she was studying, I came across that, and I thought it was just such a funny name that I wrote a song called Bumblefoot. I was immediately just inspired with this wacky song. When I had my first record deal 23 years ago, 1995, what I did is I named the album The Adventures of Bumblefoot, and every song was named after a different animal disease. Bumblefoot, Orf, Scrapey, Blue Tongue, Limberneck, Q fever, strawberry foot rot, ick, all these weird diseases. And after that, when it was time to really hit the road and start touring a lot, my band, it was pretty wacky kind of music, and the name Bumblefoot seemed like a very fitting name for the band. So it went from the disease to a song to the album to the band name. And after years of having this band where really doing all the songwriting, playing lead, I'm singing, doing everything. Not that I intended it to be, but it was like a solo project. So through that, it became more like a nickname. And that's pretty much it. So it sort of just fell in place that way. My first album, every song being named after a bacterial infection, an animal disease. What the heck? Well, that's the thing. Inspiration comes in all shapes and forms. It is constantly around us. Everything is inspiration. You just have to be open to embrace it. Every moment, everything you breathe, everything you see, everything you experience is inspiration. That's a mistake we make a lot, is that we wait for something huge to hit us, when the truth is it's always there in some form, in every form, and we just have to look at it and say, this is something just waiting for me to build on it. So in that scenario, that's what it was. You know, that was part of my life. Driving down to North Carolina and helping her study. And that became, you know, the inspiration. All those diseases and all that information in my head became that album. And even the songs, I had the names before I had the songs, and said, what does strawberry foot rot sound like to me? And I would make a song, things like that. Whatever came to mind, or not even to mind, just whatever came to everything.
and that would become music. And that's how it works. Why would I come to Whitehorse? Because life is about experiences. I have never been to Whitehorse, 49 years. You need something to take you places you've never been and experience things you've never experienced. You never know what's going to happen and where you're going to be and how. So I'm good friends with the Killer Dwarfs and Russ, and I was going to see them. I was in Calgary. I was doing a music workshop, and it turns out that in town, the Dwarfs were playing. So I went to see them, and Gary, who runs this festival, came down as well to see them, and I met Gary, and we were all talking, and he told me about this festival, and I said, yes, I would love to be part of this. Dwarfs are there, Stevie Salas, who I'm friends with, his drummer, Brian Tishy, who I'm friends with. So it's a big gathering of old and new friends. I've never been dog sledding. I've never seen this part of the world. I wanted to see it, I wanted to experience it, and I wanted to be part of what's happening here. So here we are.
So why did you opt for an acoustic set?
You know, I asked Gary, I said, what would you like me to do? I do a lot of different things. I could do a full band thing. I could do a one-man storyteller electric show. I could do a guitar clinic. I could do an acoustic set. I could do stand-up comedy. I mean, whatever it is. He was vibing on the acoustic thing. That's what he was feeling. So I was like, yeah. I think that's how it went down, or maybe I offered it, but whatever it was, that's just how the cards fell into place to do an acoustic thing. So I'm going to give him a 40-minute set of a whole bunch of songs that I like, and hopefully the audience likes. Mostly covers. It's my first time here. People don't know my music, and I would rather entertain them with things they know and just throw in a few of my own things in there as a soft introduction. And then maybe next time I'll do more of my own stuff as well. You know, my music isn't exactly on the radio every day. It's been on TV almost every day, and people don't know it. But it's been on TV a lot. And I think that's the thing about my music, is that it's always been geared more for TV or film, and it gets in a lot of that stuff. But it's not radio formatted. It's not the usual thing.
How's your experience here been so far?
It has been good. I had salmon Wellington for the first time. I never had that. I didn't even know anyone made that. It was good, you know, because the pastry sort of locks in and seals in all the juices of the fish. It was a very juicy piece of salmon. You know, I've got some wonderful salmon up here. So I just play music to eat the food. That's really what it is. You play music so that you get to go to all kinds of exotic places and eat their food.
That's a good reason. How does a smaller scale festival like Blue Feather differ from larger festivals or concerts?
Everything is different. What I do is so diverse. I will do a little private guitar clinic for 20 people, and I'll do a one-man show storyteller thing for 50 people. I will play with my band for a few hundred people, or in the thousands, whatever it's going to be. With Sons of Apollo, we do good shows, the hundreds to the thousands. So it's everything from a big festival like that to just a few people in a room. And it keeps you on your toes, and it keeps things real, because if you do a lot of bigger shows where you're not face-to-face with everybody, you can start developing a bit of a disconnect where you need to be face-to-face with people for it to be real and to stay real. You need that. I find that a face-to-face show where everyone could just reach out and smack each other, that can be, I wouldn't say scarier, but you're just more there. You yourself, you're more present and in it than if you're playing a large stage where the stage is huge, then there's a huge moat for the camera people, and then there's the barricade, and then there's the people, and you could barely make out their faces. You don't have to commit quite as much as you do when the person's face is right here. They know if you're dialing it in or not. From a distance, they may not be able to tell as much. At least that's what I found. Everybody's different. For me, that's how it has always been. I kind of like the smaller stuff where everyone's face to face. It's a little more punky. Well, when I first started developing an interest in music, it was when I was 5 years old and the Kiss Alive album just came out in the mid-'70s. And as soon as I heard that, I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And I started working toward it and put together a band, was writing songs. We would make demos using multiple cassette recorders and just figuring out how to multi-track using them just as kids, using whatever was available to us in our imagination, our creativity. That was it, but I didn't want to be a guitar player. I knew I wanted to make music. I just didn't know how and what tool I would be using or tools to make that happen. So I originally wanted to be a drummer. My brother wanted to be a drummer, so he was older, he got to be the drummer. So I wanted to be a bass player. I went to a music store and wanted to start taking bass lessons, but I was this tall and a bass was this tall, and there was no way I could handle it at that age. I was just too little. They didn't have kid-sized stuff there. So they lied to me. They told me that in order to play bass, you have to play a kid-sized acoustic nylon string guitar for 2 years. And then after that, you graduate to bass. So I did it, and I stuck with guitar, and eventually I figured out how to play bass on my own. But yeah, I got tricked into playing guitar. Yeah.
So after the kid's guitar, what was the first model guitar you ever owned?
Let's see, there was this red plastic, it looked almost like a Rickenbacker that I got at Sears. I don't think it actually plugged in like an electric. It was just sort of kind of a playable toy. But the first real electric guitar I got, it looked like a Sunburst Les Paul. It was a Les Paul copy from a company called Pace, P-A-C-E. I've never seen a guitar from a company called Pace, ever, other than that guitar. You know, just some budget guitar that some company made that was making something that looked like a Sunburst Les Paul. And that was my first electric guitar when I was 8, turning 9. Yeah. Then after that, I got an Ibanez Artist. It was an AR-50BK, 1980. 2 years later, October 1982, I got what was a replica of was it a 69 Strat? It was also like a kind of a brown Sunburst, white pickguard. It was nice. Then 2 years later, I had saved up my money. I used to paint the backs of dungaree jackets for $20, $25, painting Iron Maiden albums on the backs of jackets. And that's how I would save up money to get gear. And I saved up to buy an Ibanez Roadstar. That I chopped up and turned it into, because I started getting into guitar modeling a bit. So I turned that into, I guess what you can call the Swiss cheese guitar. And that was my main guitar for a good 13 years that I toured with, I made albums with, I did everything with. It was $100-something, and that was my main guitar. Yeah.
It's a pretty good investment.
You make it work, yeah.
One of my favorites of yours is, of course, that one with the actual Bumblefoot.
The Flying Foot,
yeah.
Yes. I was touring France in 1997, doing a clinic tour, and Vigier Guitars, V-I-G-I-E-R, one of his reps brought one of their guitars to my clinic and said, try this guitar. And I'm like, nah, I make my own guitars, I'm fine. He's like, just try it. No, try it. No, try it. No, try it. Okay. So I tried it, and the thing played so much better than my guitar. It felt great, it sounded great, everything about it. So I was like, you know what, let's talk. So I met with the head of the company, we went out to dinner and we hit it off, and I told him that I feel like part of who I am is making weird guitars that I make and play. And would they be up for that? I mean, they make their own line of guitars, their standard Excalibur guitars and things like that, but would they be willing to make the kind of weird things that I make? And they were. And we've been together for 21 years, and the first thing they made was this Flying Foot guitar. It was modeled after that Adventures of Bumblefoot album, the foot. So they made a body shaped like that, and they came up with a system of levers inside where when you bend down the vibrato bar and the bridge, these wings come out of the sides. It was genius, and the guitar really sounded good. The way they chambered it, whatever they did, it had a character to it. It was a really good sounding guitar, and that became my main guitar. That was it, yeah.
It wasn't until your second album, Hermit, that you began performing vocals?
Well, I was always singing in my band and everything. I was the singer, but and when I signed to that record label that put out The Adventures of Bumblefoot, the idea was they were signing my band and the music I was making with my band, which was not guitar music, it was just band music. And once I signed the deal, I said, well, let's just put out a guitar album just to start things off. It's like, all right. And did that. Then I made another album, and the label actually rejected it. They said it was too dark. And they said, can you make something a little bit lighter, a little wackier? So I did, and then they took a few pieces from that other album and put them onto that album and made this mishmash, and that was Hermit, which I wasn't happy at the time because I felt like it was two different personalities and directions, and it made the album very scattered, where it seemed to have more of a distinct personality to it. The two albums that I had, each one had a distinct personality. And when you put them together, it lost that. It became just multi-directional, and it was harder to figure out who the artist was, in a way. But that was that, and it was the first vocal album that I was doing. So did that, and then ended with the label, and started my own record label and started putting out the Bumblefoot albums. At this point, they were called Thal albums. And then I started Bumblefoot albums under my own record label. First album I put out, Hands, in 1998.
Your first label was Shrapnel, right?
Yeah.
Why did you split with them?
Well, it was really it just wasn't what I signed up for. It wasn't what I thought we had agreed on what it would be. Artistically and everything. It just wasn't. So I needed to get out of that contract and start doing things differently. So I started my own label and started licensing out. I had different distributors in Japan and Europe. Yeah, and things progressed. Yeah.
I'm all out of songs. I don't know any other songs. Someone just say Freebird.